Sunny Side Up podcast is a space to talk openly about the storms in life and tools to get through them. When we speak our truths, although it can be scary, we realize we are not alone. Others come forward and feel seen. Our courage creates brave conversations and a support system starts to align. We realize that we're more alike than different, and sharing is not so scary when light emanates from dark spaces. Hello, beautiful sunshine community. We have a new episode of Sunny Side Up today with a dear, dear friend and fellow wellness warrior. Her name is Melissa. I don't want to screw this up. Skardoutos?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yep.
I guess I've always just called you Melissa. I've never really tried the whole last name, but so everybody say that 10 times fast. Is that Greek?
Yeah.
Skardoutos. It's really pretty. So anyhow, Melissa is a trauma-informed life coach and just beautiful human moving through life with such authenticity. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to Melissa, because we met through a mutual friend through the Wellness Warrior community. And just really tapping into all things wellness. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to Melissa was just her laughter, her authenticity, her realness, her rawness. And today's episode, you guys, I know is going to be all of those things. I am like hot out of teaching a class. So this is as real as it gets for me if you're seeing me on video. And then this beautiful shining light at the top of my screen is on with us today to share all of her light. So thank you for being here.
I'm so excited. Yes, thank you for having me. And I'm just so excited, and what a compliment. Because I, met you and just was able to look at your social media and everything that you stand for. And I'm honored to be here, and I'm just really excited to tell my story and to share it with you.
You know what else is really cool? Sunny Side Up podcast is celebrating its 4th year. And I think you are actually going to be the first episode of season 4. I don't think I told you that.
That's awesome.
I mean, no pressure. No, it's amazing. You're the perfect person. So welcome. And for those of you that are new to the Sunny Side Up podcast, it started in 2020 when everything was a shitstorm. And we were really trying to navigate how to get through everything going on in the world and share tools. That's what I really wanted this platform to be, was to share tools and storytelling, because I know I see myself in you. And when we start to share our stories, there are things that are like, you know what, I've been through something similar to that. And I never thought of that approach, or I can't even imagine how you survived that. And we're inspired, right? We're lifted up by that. So Melissa Skardoutos, tell us about you, your business, what you bring to this world. Let's just start there.
Oh man. So I am, like you said, a trauma-informed empowerment coach. I work with women specifically who have experienced childhood trauma. To help them start to get to the root of the beliefs that are fueling all of their decisions, right? The reason, obviously, why this is so important to me is because it has been such a profound aspect of my journey in the process of unlearning, right? There was a lot of learning, but the majority of the work for me was in the unlearning, and that is really the foundation of my coaching. So I work with women to, number one, discover what you want to be experiencing. And then we explore what you want to be experiencing. And then we start to get into what's stopping you from having it. It has transformed me in so many ways, being able to witness the growth and transformation of other women. inner child work is a big part of my coaching, but what I think that makes it unique because I am using an effective foundation and tools that, are proven to work to get to the root of your beliefs and, um, start to learn new habits and routines, but also addressing that inner child almost right away and giving her a voice really just, it blows the lid um, off of the cage that we build for ourselves. And when we do that almost right away in a way that feels safe for the inner child and supportive, oh man, it removes so many limitations. And then we're just like building on that. We're just working through the residuals. And yeah, I love, love, love coaching.
So how long have you been coaching?
2 years.
3 years. Okay. And what does it mean to look at your inner child? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I think it looks a little bit different for everybody, but usually what we do is meet them where they're at, right? So for everybody, that might look a little bit different. For some of us, we might be little children. For some of us, we might be 14 or 15, but just really taking some intentional time to visualize and go back there and figure out um where she needs to be heard, right? For a lot of us, like who've experienced trauma, I think we've become so comfortable or conditioned to dissociate, right? Some of us have been silenced, whether it was intentional or unintentional, but we don't allow them a voice. We don't give them an opportunity to say, this happened to me and this was really hard and it really impacted me. And so sometimes it's even, I think, something spiritual. um, when I meet with these women, I think because they know that I've been through it, they feel a sense of safety. Their inner child feels a sense of safety and feels able to express. So yeah, so it's a combination of writing, visualizing, and really just having a conversation.
Okay, so when you say, for those people that are listening that have never even heard about inner child work, and you say somebody needs to go back, meeting them where they're at, maybe they need to go back to age 14. Is that because that's where the trauma took place? Do you go back to where the trauma took place to nurture that inner child to help move forward? Or why do you go back to a certain age?
I mean, again, I think it looks different for everybody. And in no way am I like in my coaching, forcing people to like re-traumatize themselves or go back to a place that they're not open to. But why I say that it could be different ages is I believe that there are different versions of us that are always alive in us at every point during our lives. And those different phases of us are going to need more attention during certain times, right? For me, for example, in relationships, little 6-year-old Melissa is very, very present because 6-year-old Melissa was strongly impacted by the relationship with her parents and the lack of relationship with her parents. Um, a lot of times when it comes to like my body stuff, right? With my body changing, that's teenage Melissa feeling a lot of judgment of other people and pressure to look a certain way and feeling different from other people. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's where the trauma transpired, but I just believe that at different phases of our life, there are different versions of us that are showing up stronger than others. So I think it can be a variety of things.
Okay, that totally makes sense. And thank you for clarifying that because you're right. Like if I were to hire you as a coach and you and I were working in that capacity, we would almost look at different stages of little Allie, right? And how I carried those patterns with me through a lifetime, right? So, as a little girl, how I, coped with divorce. As a teenager, living through the '90s skinny era of, how I malnourished my body and how that affected me today. So, is that kind of what you're saying? I think that's what you're saying is that I love that too, because especially as women, um, we oftentimes do disassociate, or why am I this way? Or why do I keep making the same mistakes? Or how come I'm stuck? Why am I stuck? Why can't I get through this? And sometimes it's just having that conversation of simplifying of maybe why we've gotten to where we're at, right?
Hmm. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So like one of the most profound tools that I practice in coaching is replacing your judgment with curiosity. Because I feel like so often, especially as women, just like you said, we add guilt and shame onto an already agitated powerless state or whatever we're experiencing. We add more guilt and shame on it because I'm not supposed to feel this way. I'm supposed to be showing up in the world and shining. I'm supposed to be a good mom. I'm supposed to be a good wife. We're supposed to wear all of these hats. And so a lot of times we dissociate. And so like in the process of coaching, we could be working on, maybe we're working on body image, right? Maybe we're working on our relationship with money. Maybe we're working on our eating habits, right? So like maybe your parents used food as an opportunity to distract you, right? And so when we're looking at food habits and eating habits, there's a version of you that's showing up. There's a version of you that created this belief around doing this certain thing, because she was taught to cope a certain way. So it really does look different with everybody. And yeah, it is just, even that curiosity alone creates an opening for that child to come, to speak up and say, hey, like, this is what's happening. This is what I'm feeling. So, yeah.
So, Melissa, what inspired you to do this work? Why did you decide this is your life's work?
So, well, the short version is that I'm a recovering drug addict. So, I have been in recovery and active addiction recovery for 8 years. And, I was exposed to a 12-step program and I learned a lot about addiction, right? The nature of addiction. But what I realized very quickly was that even though I took away the symptom, which the drugs are always a symptom, the things are always a symptom, the gambling, the shopping, the drug use, the body dysmorphia, whatever it is, it's always a symptom. It's not the root cause. But what I noticed is that I still felt so discontent with myself and so unhappy and repeating the same patterns in relationships. Like I dated my father, I recreated the relationships with my mother and my abuser. And I just realized that there was something grossly missing in my life. And a lot of my inspiration comes from the teachings of Louise Hay. She really allowed me an opportunity to meet my inner child. And I remember just having such a profound breakthrough in starting to like identify all of the habits and beliefs and relationships and everything that I formed from these beliefs that this little girl developed as a means to feel safe, as a means to try to understand what was happening. And I made it my mission back then that everything that I went through was going to serve a higher purpose. And yeah, there are a lot of pieces of my story, right? Addiction is one of them, but I experienced a lot of trauma growing up, and I didn't have access to a lot of the modalities that we do now, right? So I did it a lot the hard way, they say. Um, and now knowing what I know and knowing how delicate she is, that little Melissa, and understanding the science behind our core beliefs and our habits and all of that. Yeah, I just prayed for God to show me what I'm supposed to be doing, and it was like, here it is.
No, that's so beautiful. And I'm really proud of you because that's a hard, hard road and journey. And here you are sharing your story. And I believe there are people out there listening right now that are knee deep in addiction. There are people out there listening right now that have a loved one with addiction and don't have any idea where to turn, what to do, where to go. And I do think you're right that we have a lot more modalities, and maybe they were always there, but because of social media, we talk about them more, which is a blessing, because social media can be the opposite of a blessing at times. So how long have you been sober?
8 years.
8 years. Wow, that's amazing. Um, and do you still work the 12 steps, or what is your toolbox to sobriety?
Yeah. Yeah. So I am not actively working the steps, but I'm still involved in the program. So I still go to 12-step meetings, but yeah, I mean, I guess all of my people are recovering in some way, right? So I do therapy, which I still find to be very important. I am blessed to have a lot of coaches and other recovering humans who are evolved and on the process in the process as well. That I'm very mindful and careful who I process with because of those things. But yeah, I mean, I do a lot of shadow work on my own. I have a spiritual practice. I'm very connected with God and with nature and all of that. So I am not as involved in the 12-step programs. Um, but yeah, I have gathered a lot of tools, and I still practice and live the steps in my day-to-day life. I just hmm I have just found myself in a space more recently over the last couple of years that um, I just felt like I needed more, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Well, I don't think I know. There's evolution and there's layers. Because, whatever you've been through in life, something that works at the very beginning to pull you out of the darkness is going to look different 8 years later, right? Which is where you're at. So, and I think that's such a beautiful gift from God. I think that, He intended it in that way to pull ourselves out of darkness is going to require more intense therapy, more intense meetings, more intense support. And then once we're through it, we're just going to continue to learn so much more about ourselves. And all of our journeys are so different. The saying healing is not linear, it really isn't. Um, and that vision of the iceberg, you see the iceberg above the water, but what you don't see is everything underneath the iceberg, all of the hard work it took for you to get where you are and for me to get where I am and everyone listening for you to get where you are. Um, so I think that is an important point that what worked years ago might look different now, right?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for that program. I really am. And it's funny you made that analogy because my sponsor slash mentor did a little speech at my last celebration, and she referred to me as a duck that looked very graceful atop the water. But what everybody didn't see is I was paddling for life beneath the water, and that it got me so emotional because yeah, it's I sit here today a completely different person. I do share some on social media, but who I am, the way I tell my story, the way I experience my story has drastically evolved and changed so much. And that took time. It took a lot of time. And I don't think I could be where I am, with the same thoughts and beliefs that I did when I started. And that served a purpose, just like you mentioned, like all of those things served a purpose, and I'm here now, so yeah.
So I had an experience in Montana. I led a group of women, and I actually want to talk to you about the recent women's retreat you just hosted. So let's do that next. But I led a women's retreat in Montana in 2021, 2021, 2022, something like that. And it was with a friend of mine, Carly, and we took like 10 women to Montana. And I I kid you not, it was one of the most incredible experiences, but I've never felt so held. So the magic of the space that we were in, looking over the mountains, I just felt held. That's the word that I can give you. And I had one night that I was laying in bed and out of a dead sleep, I woke up. It was like 3 a.m. And the voice that came to me was not my own. And, maybe it was God. I don't know, but a voice came to me and it said, your pain is not what makes you interesting. Your pain is not what makes you interesting. I have goosebumps. And I don't even know if I've shared that, Melissa, on the podcast yet. And I was like, what does that mean? My pain is not what makes me interesting. And I got up and I started writing. And what came to me is that I was holding on to this story for so long that if I didn't share my trauma, if I didn't hold on to my pain, that everybody that was there for me in my times of darkness and need just wouldn't be there for me anymore, because the only reason that they were there, the only reason I wasn't abandoned was because of this pain. Isn't that profound?
It's just, yeah, I mean, my heart just, it ached, but in a good way, because I feel that so deeply. Before we got on, I started just like searching through old journal entries, and, it brings me to this other epiphany that I had, which, I mean, I had a very similar story because, like before recovery, I mean, it was addiction, it was trauma, it was homelessness, it was survival, it was chaos, confusion, disorder. I mean, my life started 8 years ago. It literally did. And so, coming into recovery, right? That story that I used to tell, and the story that I tell today is very different, but the story that I used to tell was very painful. And I found this identity in that. Like like people would only be proud of me if they knew every everything that happened, and you had to know all of my trauma, and it's like, for me now, like, I embody who I am. I don't have to retell those stories. Like, if you know me, you know that have a story. And but yeah, that was hard, letting go of that story, especially like coming into the community of healers, and just all of the, Sunny Side Up and the Wellness Warriors and all of these beautiful leaders and healers and coaches. And I had this block of like, why are they gonna like me? What do I have to offer? if I'm not sharing that, like what do I have to offer? And I had a lot of work to do in that area, and I had to, just like you said, I had to write to her, to that version of me. And I had to let her know that it was like, it was safe to let go. Like it was safe to let go of that story. And now, yeah, the way that I tell my story is so different because our pain is not what makes us interesting. And yeah, how profound.
Yeah, so the word imposter syndrome goes around a lot, right? You know, how would I possibly be worthy to do this work? Who am I to say I can enter into this field? But when you are so secure in yourself and who God made you to be, it changes the game. It totally does. And forever and ever and ever and ever, the tagline on my email has been be yourself, everyone else is taken. Be yourself, everyone else is taken. And it still rings true today because if you're not being yourself, if you're not showing up in this world to shine your talents and the things that God intended you to do, you're doing everyone a disservice, right?
It's also not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So going back, I have not even heard, and I was waiting for this episode to hear all about your women's retreat. So this work that you're doing, this coaching, this healing, this recovery, everything that you're doing. And then here I see you partner with another local amazing woman that we know in the wellness spectrum, and you put on this retreat where women can come together and learn from you and grow. And so just like tell us all about that.
First of all, that was literally like a vision taking life and dreams come true. I have a male best friend. Now we have talked about inner child retreats for years. And I have so many like ideas, so many visions. But that for me was like a culmination of doing the work and moving past that belief, right? And allowing myself to show up as a healer, as a leader. But oh my gosh, it was a healing retreat, but also we really prioritized a lot of play, which is very similar like how my coaching experience is, right? We hit some hard stuff. There's some heavy hitters for sure, but we really prioritized play and laughter and embodiment of the child. Um, and again, like giving her a voice. So I was able to lead these women, some women, you know, my niece was there, she's 18. I think she was the youngest, and the oldest was in her 60s. And most of these women, it was their first experience giving a voice to that inner child and paying attention to her. And we had women crying and laughing and hugging each other. And it was so beautiful and so profound. And then Anayat was able to lead them through breath work centered on the inner child healing. And so that was profound. And yeah, I mean, like to just look around the room and watch these women allow themselves to like sing and dance and laugh and play, and like really have that intention of like embodying their little girl. Because that's something that I think is so important, right? Is the process of reparenting. A lot of people don't understand, or a lot of people just maybe understand it from like a Google aspect. But a lot of that entails like going back to moments that we should have had as a child, right? Like the experiences we didn't get to have, right? Um, Maybe it's like braiding your hair. Maybe nobody ever braided your hair. Like maybe it's having somebody tell you how proud they are of you. Maybe it's like playing Barbies or swinging on the swings or making mud pies. Like it's going back to some of those experiences that we didn't get to have, that we should have had, that would have made us really happy. and allowing ourselves to experience it as an adult, but embodying her. So it was so beautiful. It was like I'm still on a spiritual high from it. um, so yeah, it was amazing.
Well, I really wanted to be there, but it was a school weekend for me. I was away. So I was having FOMO and living vicariously through your posts. So it was at a horse farm, right?
Water Stables in Nortonville.
What's it called again?
Stillwater Stables.
Stillwater Stables. Okay. So speaking of ideas, I think I've written down like at least 5 times all the different groups I want to host there because it looks like such an incredible space.
It was beautiful. It was perfect.
And did you guys interact with the horses? Like, don't they allow that? Did you ride them? Did you pet them? Like, what happens with the horses?
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of the retreat, so moving forward, we'll probably allocate for more time so that we
Okay.
can like have more of that. But yeah, I mean, we had a lot of free time, so everybody was free to go explore the horses and cold plunge sauna. They have all of that on the space. They have, water access. So yeah, I as a leader did not have a moment to stop and really spend too much time with the horses. But yeah, the retreat attendees definitely did go spend time with them, but we did not ride them.
Yeah, I was just curious because I mean, I know nothing at all about horse therapy, but I do know as another tool. I've heard so much about horses and how wise they are and how it's energy, right? Everything with horses is energy. So I almost feel like it's another piece of the magic of going to that property.
Yeah, horses are such empathetic beings.
Yeah.
It's like so I did get to engage with the horses. That's a lie because um the stables, you have to go through the stables to go upstairs. So we did Annie and I the night before spent some time like just like hanging out with all the horses. But yeah, it's crazy. It's like you can see in their soul when you look in their eyes and you just like, yeah, they're just such beautiful creatures. Yeah.
So I don't even know if you're allowed to share or if you plan to share or if it's a part of your strategy, but what's next? Do you have another retreat planned? Do you have something in the hopper that you could share?
We have an event coming up in October.
Okay.
Um, Going to look at a space Friday. So I'll hold back on too many more of the details there, but we are working on something big as a project between the two of us. Yeah, I mean, Soulful Summer Camp will definitely be an annual thing. The women that came, like, I just, I, yeah, just made it even more special and solidified that this is definitely something that we're supposed to do. So Soulful Summer Camp 2025 will be a thing. But we're in conversations to talk about partnering up a little bit more and doing some more community events and stuff like that. Um, yeah. So that's all I can share so far. But stay tuned for the event in October because it is going to be like just so beautiful and something so different, and I'm so excited.
And local to Metro Detroit, right? Yeah, local to Metro Detroit. Okay, so people that are listening to this, just know that for Melissa's events, if you live in the Metro Detroit area, I mean, you can fly in. Certainly, you could fly in. We could make it international, right? Yeah, no, that's amazing. So what would be like a dream scenario to share your story or to ignite your business? Like when you think about Melissa Skardoutos, um, and that next layer, that next step in your business, or that dream opportunity to be on stage, or whatever it is, what does that look like?
Oh, I always get so emotional thinking about this. Because I would really like my dream, my vision has always been on a stage, right? Um, I really like, I don't know if that's TED Talk or what that is, but to be on a stage and share with women learning how to love ourselves and love our bodies after abuse and after trauma. Um, because I know that my story could help so many women because I just do. I just know that that is a part of God's plan for me. So, so this is a step in that process too, like really showing up and letting my voice be heard. But yeah, I mean, it's on my vision board. It's been a part of the vision since, I started my recovery journey 8 years ago. And so that would be like dream come true. And really sharing some parts of my story that um how do I want to say this? Because I feel like it's an opportunity for a reframe. Not that I have held back, but just parts of my story that are very sacred to me. Um, and I shared this on my story earlier. Like, I don't share some pieces of my story on social media just to like continue to. I just want to make sure I'm not speaking too matter of factly about things that were profoundly um painful, that shaped me, and because I do best with that energetic exchange and speaking, I feel like that is a part of my journey. So yeah. um, and then retreats, definitely having more retreats and events. uh, that is Soulful Summer Camp just blew the lid off for me, being able to be in real life with these women, because I do get to experience it with coaching, but to be able to hug them and hold them and offer that space and put my hands on them, like, and whisper those affirmations to them and let them know that they're lovable, and not that I can convince them because that's an inside job, but some women have gone their whole lives with nobody ever looking at them and telling them that they're worthy, that they're safe to love themselves, so retreats and events are definitely something that are in my future, in the future of empowered.
I think there's a lot of power in just saying that out loud, which is why, this podcast is completely unscripted. And the questions that come to me are really just natural in where our dialogue and conversation is going. But um, I just think there's so much power in you saying that out loud. And those things will happen. And you are already helping those women. And you and I both know that if one person, two people, three people hear this episode and it inspires them to make a positive change for self-worth, then it was all worth it, right? When you classify a podcast and you say, well, this is a mental health podcast, it really is, because everything is connected, mental, physical, we're all one divine being. And when one is out of balance, the rest is out of balance. And we have to address those things whether we want to or not. So thank you for doing the work for you and for all of us. It's really important to do that. What are some common things that you hear in your line of work that women are saying to you? I know you talked about unworthiness, surviving trauma, but what are some common things you hear? And I'm asking you this question because people that are listening to it, again, it makes them feel not so alone, that we are walking this walk together. We are on this earth at the same time together. Um, and I just think by speaking that out, oftentimes people realize that they're not alone in these journeys. So can you think of anything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The How can I say this? The biggest theme that I have found is it was my fault. And that one is not a one and done. That's one that takes your breath away because yeah, that takes some time. That takes some time and it's delicate and um you have to allow people their pain, right? Like you have to allow them the opportunity to grieve that has plagued them and controlled them and has held them back. And almost every single one of the clients that I have worked with, that was a theme, that it was my fault. So that one is, if we can even skim the surface of rewiring that belief and getting to the truth. And that's another thing that's like so profound with coaching is we get to the truth. So why I was abused, why, this made me feel this way, why? Just really getting really curious about like what it is we believe, why, where it came from, where that came from, like, um, but yeah, uh, and it's so beautiful when you watch a woman who at one point believed that it was her fault and that it was her destiny to play small and be quiet and be agreeable. And when you watch her take her power back and allow herself to show up, because even a fraction of her no longer believes that, like even a fraction of her believes that she's lovable. Um, it's just like, yeah, again, the lid blows off and the possibilities become a little more broad and life starts to feel a little more purposeful and you don't feel so heavy because that energy is weightful for sure.
I feel like this entire episode could be all about helping people undo it's not my fault, right? Yeah. Wow. 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 So, are you currently taking new clients?
I am. Yep, I am. I promised to open doors in September. I just haven't officially launched, but anybody is welcome to send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram, Empower with Melissa on both platforms. If you have my personal number, reach out that way. I have a link tree you can book a call. But yeah, I mean, I do generally, would like to do an official launch, but I've been so busy with other things. But yeah, I'm taking calls and planning to start hopefully then in the next week or two. But yeah, I'm definitely taking clients.
Awesome. I wanted to ask because I already feel it in my bones that there's people listening to this that are saying, this is the nudge I needed to. I believe every coach needs a coach, every mentor needs a mentor. And I also think that it's who we align with, who we feel called like you said, you're almost careful who you share your truth with and your story with because will that person hold space for me? Will that person um, create um, create space for me to move forward? That's important. It can't just be anybody. So, anyways, I feel it in my bones that there's people listening to this that will be called to work with you. So that is super exciting. That makes me giddy. Okay, so one of the questions I always ask, and I feel like we've addressed it, but it's okay because I'm feeling called to ask you, and maybe there's something else that's going to come up for you. Um, with every storm comes the sunshine, with all the rain, everything that we go through in life, there's always that hope, that hopeful element to us. So take us through a time in your life where it was just so dark and you didn't see any way out. Take us through a time in your life and what were those tools? What were those sunshine tools to get you through?
Well, you know, it's almost like okay, the obvious choice would be, the end of my addiction, right? You know, physically, my body shutting down, all of those things. But I have to be honest with you that there was a moment in recovery, um, because that was hard. That was really hard. Um, but I do feel like the drugs and the lifestyle and the alcohol and the dissociation were keeping a lot of those things at bay versus when I came into recovery and I felt everything organically, naturally, intensely. Uh, the year that COVID happened, I was heavy in trauma therapy and working heavily on my inner child and coming to terms with a lot of abuse that happened that I had disconnected from and dissociated from for a long time. I was finally facing the truth with that. And I went through a breakup, um, which was extremely painful because for me, it was re-experiencing the loss of my father. That relationship mimicked the relationship with my father. And so the pain of the abandonment, and the pain of just really accepting the truth about the things that happened to me. COVID happened, the world shut down, and I thought, I'm I'm gonna die alone. Like I just it felt so real, and it felt like the pain was so great. I remember just being so triggered in such a triggered state that I felt like I was on drugs. That's the only way I know how to explain it is my reality felt altered all the time because I was just being so activated. Um, Panic attacks, like I just felt like a complete loss of control of my mind and body. And COVID happened and I was in my apartment alone and I just felt like such a failure and I just felt so heavy and so unlovable and unloved. And I remember this moment of like, God, if it's gonna feel this way forever, I don't know if I want to be here. And that was probably the darkest moment of my life, the darkest times of my life. I remember just laying on the couch and just crying. I just felt so heavy for so long. And honestly, I do remember going back to the teachings of Louise Hay, and I got back into my mirror work, and I really, really heavily started healing my inner child. Um, and I consoled her, and I made sure she knew that, him leaving was not because she was not unlovable. Their inability to love you does not make you unlovable. That one changed my life. Um, and Therapy, my coming back to my body, what I now know is somatic. I didn't know it at the time, but creating a relationship with my physical body was something that was so important to me because with PTSD and the dissociation, it becomes like so painful to come back to your body, right? And so we make it a practice of leaving. And so for me, I had to really practice feeling physically my body. And so at the time, like I would take a shower and I would just feel every part of my body and I would send it love. And I started really intentionally sending love to my body, putting a picture of my inner child up, connecting with her every day, making sure she knew that her parents leaving was not because she was unlovable. Like I started journaling and getting really, really honest with myself about what I believed about those events. Like really, really believed my whole life that my dad couldn't get better because I didn't do enough, because I wasn't enough. The belief in identity work is just like, yeah, I mean, it's like, it has to be a combination of, yeah, like the somatic work, coming back to your body, creating a healthy relationship with that, but also, yeah, getting getting really comfortable knowing your shadows. And that experience changed me. It changed me. It threw me into a dark night of the soul, and it allowed me to see everything that was so important to me. And I just would not be here without it.
So maybe a tough question, but do you think God takes us through these dark nights of the soul to teach us those things? Is that your belief system?
Mm. Yes.
Okay.
I didn't understand that at the time. I used to be very resentful that things didn't work out the way I wanted them to, right? And now I look at things a lot differently. Um, I think you always have a choice whether to alchemize those experiences, whether to transform them and, yeah, empower yourself. But yeah, I mean, there's not one doubt in my mind that that experience, that relationship was meant to shine the light on those dark parts. Yeah.
I recently had an experience at school. I go to a naturopathic school in Mount Pleasant. It's a 4-year program, and so once a weekend, I head to school, and sometimes it's really deep. It's really, I mean, when you are in naturopath work, you're getting to the root, and sometimes that is just hard. And so we had a weekend at school, and it was a pretty emotional weekend, and the teacher was trying to relate to everybody in the class because everybody's belief is different. Some people believe in God, some people don't, right? And that's the tricky part about religion or spirituality or whatever. And I was having a really hard time with understanding how anybody um, ever truly feels alone when God is always there and ever present. And the teacher looked at me and said, Allie, have you ever felt alone? And I like paused for it felt like an eternity, but it had to have been like 45 seconds. And I was like, no, I have never been alone. We might have those dark nights of the soul and we might have those times of just utter sheer darkness. But I really, when she asked that question, I was like, I have always known. It's almost like, um, what's the Little Mermaid? Her voice, right? Inside that necklace. Like that's what came to me. Ah. Like I've never felt alone because there's this little light inside of me, this little mustard seed of God. And I'm so grateful for that, but it made me realize that that's not everybody's story. And that's why I wanted to ask you that question because I feel very lucky that, I feel lucky. That's the word, grateful, lucky. Um, that I've always had that North Star of God, and that even the shitty, tough, just really terrible parts of life, it's almost like the light's always just kind of been on.
Yeah, I do know.
You
I
do. And I'm glad you do. That makes me happy.
Yeah, no, God has, I mean, so my beliefs have evolved and changed so many times since like 8 years ago. But like the God of my understanding has always, since the day that I believed I believe I was saved and I got that whisper, I've had so many like audible so much audible guidance and yeah, spiritual, yeah, just signs and connections from my higher power. I'm a very spiritual person. I have a very strong connection with my higher power and everything that I do. That is why honesty is so important to me, transparency, authenticity. Because I mean, yeah, it's just like I just want to be a good person. And because I feel like I have that connection so strongly with my higher power, like I don't have the luxury of like ignorance or, yeah, like I can't really ignore things. I just don't have it in me. It's just not who I am. And so, but yeah, throughout that whole experience, God was definitely leading me through for sure.
I have to tell you, this conversation, which by the way has been one of my absolute favorite. Like I could go on and on with you, but I feel like, we've gotten pretty deep. And I also know you as absolutely effing hilarious. You are so funny. And if you follow Melissa on social media, the stuff she posts just has me cracking up. So I feel like maybe our next episode, maybe we do like a comedy in the darkness or something because you are so funny. And I'm sure I know this because I have loved ones that humor actually humor gets you through, right? Humor and laughter is so necessary to deal with the hard stuff in life. Um, so yeah, anyways, I just wanted to mention that because make sure you're following Melissa. And you said it's empowered with, what is it again? Your handle?
It's Empower with Melissa, but empower is spelled like I'm power, IMPOWER.
Empower. Okay, I'll put that in the notes section too. So, all right. So the way we kind of wrap things up on Sunny Side Up, and I think I'm going to continue to do this. Even, we're going into season 4. I just love it because it allows us to take a moment and put our hands on our heart, close our eyes, and take as much time as you need. This message is going to reach so many hearts, so many people, so many women, and offer so much hope. And as you take this big, delicious breath of life, is there one message on your heart or something that you feel called to share? It can be anything, any topic. Just take your time and then share when you're ready.
You are lovable exactly as you are.
Simple, but so true. Yeah. A lifetime of unlearning and learning, right? Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I can't wait to read your book that you didn't mention that you'll write someday. I can't wait to be at your TED Talk. I have to say, and I was born this way, and it's in my nature to be a cheerleader of other women. Let's be cheerleaders for each other. Life is too short. There's a big enough stage for all of us. So I'm just going to keep rooting for you, girl. Yeah, samesies. All right. Well, you have an incredible day. Make sure you guys are following Empowered. I'm not even going to get it right again. Empowered Melissa.
Empowered Melissa.
Put it in the notes section. Yeah, so I'll put it there. Thank you, girlfriend. You guys follow her for upcoming events, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll see you later.
Okay. I'm going to be honest about something. My closet is a hot mess. There's clothes in there that have no business being in there anymore, and it's way past time for a refresh. Also, let's not even get started about my mom-mobile and pantry. Listen, I have good intentions of being organized, but it's not what I'm gifted at. Luckily, there are incredibly gifted people in this world and in the field of organization, like Creating Harmony, a business that was founded by Heather Kinder in a sweet little beach town called Pawleys Island. She saw a need, ran with it, and now she's helping families create harmony and find value in their spaces. A consultation by phone is free, and Heather will travel based on the project and scope of the work. How cool is that? Visit creatingharmonyco.com to see projects she's worked on and to learn more. Here's a revolutionary thought from a Pod Squad supporter, revolutionarytravel.com. When we adventure travel, the world becomes smaller by expanding our view.
When we go somewhere adventurous, we learn that people are people everywhere. And traveling with Rev allows more freedom in our day. It takes us away from comfortable spaces where we often get stuck. Traveling with Rev truly will change the way that we see the world. You can learn more at revolutionarytravel.com, now booking trips to Puerto Rico, Puerto Vallarta, Colombia, and more.